Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Summer and Cynthia. This is episode two, although I'm holding up four. We are so excited to be back, giving this another try. I guess, we didn't get scared from the first episode. We're here again, nothing stopping us. We are, again, just two women who are podcasters, happen to be in a podcasting mastermind group several years back, started a relationship, recorded a recent episode on Cynthia's show not too long ago, and decided, you know what? There is something there. And we didn't know what it was, but over a few more days of brainstorming, we came up with this show. So that was just a little intro of why you're looking at what you're looking at right now. And hopefully you are enjoying so far what you've seen. Cynthia, I know that was a little bit of randomness, but
Yeah, you get a day off because yesterday you were working hard getting two people married. So,
yes,
we have so many talents.
we do. I she's right. Real sidebar. I officiated my very first wedding. Shout out to Andrew and Taylor for trusting me with such a special day. I enjoyed it. I also have a little bit of allergies going on right now, but as they say in Hollywood, the show goes on, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are not only women of many talents and certifications, but also many opinions.
Mm,
And we're still getting to learn who each other is because even though we've been knowing each other as friends and colleagues for 3 years plus, we've never met each other. And Summer's in Dallas and I'm in Chicago. And we just kind of came to this from very different worlds. So, what we're going to do is just talk a little bit more about the stuff that comes across our plates and what we're up to because it's COVID and we're running out of things to talk about.
exactly. And what the heck else are you going to do with all this time on our hands, right? But be creative and crank out some good content. So, in the spirit of continuing to get to know one another, Cynthia and I, and maybe you viewers as well, we thought it'd be fun to kind of have a lightning round episode of just some things to help us get to know each other better. So, to kick things off, we decided to explore what are our current favorite television shows. So, not to be confused with all time, but currently, what are we obsessing over? Cynthia.
Well, I'll tell you, when you watch British TV streamed on
Ooh.
Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, you don't get much of a binge. I mean, these are 6 season episodes gone before you even start, hardly. So, just finished The Split, which is season two. We had to pay on Amazon to get it. It's also on Sundance now. Season one is available, I think, free on Amazon. Comes from our fine friends in London, starring Nicola Walker and a whole bunch of people. And it's about women divorce attorneys who are of the same family. So it's the mother became sort of the head of this one law firm doing family law, but primarily divorces. And then they got absorbed into a larger firm. And so it's basically kind of a workplace drama. But as it turns out, well, I'm not going to get into spoiling too much, but as it turns out, you get to find out a lot about these people's personal lives as well. And it's Nicola Walker, and she is up and coming. She is the Helen Mirren of the next generation.
Is it like a drama, suspense, or
It's drama,
okay?
dramatic drama. Talking
Yeah,
about divorces and infidelity. That's drama.
it's a little heavy. Yeah. Anything else?
I watched a Bones episode last night. That's my candy. That's my head candy.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I have like a list. You're making.
We'll put them in the show notes, folks.
Yes, we will. Absolutely. As far as candy, I like how you say that. I'm gonna take that. Candy, my candy, my happy space is Schitt's Creek. Love, and that is Canadian.
Mhm.
on Pop Network, and you can also check it out on Netflix.
Mhm.
I before all the Emmys, of course, that's it, a lot of new audiences now come about because of the accolades, well deserved accolades the show has gotten. But a couple of years ago, stumbled upon this little show, and it's short episodes, so you can get through and season very easily,
Mhm.
and it's just delightful. It is a great comedy, and it great love story. It's Schitt's Creek. It is just all of that and then some. So I highly recommend that. Another happy place, The Office. I mean, these are when I am done with the news and really just want to escape. Let me preface it that way. This is where I go. Schitt's Creek, the Office, The Golden Girls. These are just places that no matter what mood I'm in at that time, once I see them on the screen, all is well in the world. So those are my candies, my go-to. I would have to also say I enjoy a show called Greenleaf on the OWN network. And what I love about this drama, it's messy. It's everything that you you look for in one of those high quality acting drama filled shows. It's basically about a mega church, right? And
Mm.
all that goes down in those types of environments, there's infidelity, there's questions of sexuality, there's lying, and all the things, all in the name of the Lord. So, so I would highly recommend that as well. Cynthia, you and I have talked about a few times my love hate relationship with reality TV. That's really just driven by what mood I'm in. I can't really even recommend a show right now because they're kind of getting on my nerves. So I don't know if it's as I'll step out and say I've outgrown them,
Mhm.
but I definitely have to be in a type of mood to tolerate the shenanigans that reality TV provides me.
And maybe it's because we're living a little bit of reality TV and shenanigans are coming fast and furious. So,
Perhaps it too soon, too raw. So yeah, I can't really go into that. Back to scripted television, Succession on HBO.
mhm.
Love, 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 love. Obsessed with what a family goes through, the lengths one will go through to either take over the throne, the family business, the power, the greed, all of those enticing things. Watching the siblings do what they can to get to the top. It's a great show, impeccable cast, acting, all of that. Um, and then Billions on Showtime
All
is
right.
another.
Never
Have
heard
you?
of it.
No. Oh, yes. And sidebar, I have a little bit of a crush on Damian Lewis. He's a ginger, and my husband's a ginger. Didn't realize I like gingers, evidently. But yeah, no, it's a great show about Wall Street, hedge funds, um, and the government and regulations, and just the drama that goes into that. Um, so yeah, as you can see, I love television.
Well, we do have the next season of The Crown unrolls on Netflix in a couple weeks, I guess.
Yes, and I'll be honest. So I'm very weird about how I watch certain television shows, and The Crown. Happy you brought that up. Is a perfect example because I know there's an end date. I am delayed with how I started. I will not be there for premiere night,
Mhm.
nor probably the first month because I know it's going to end and I'm going to be in my feels and I'll have to wait a whole nother year.
And we got to hope that Queen Elizabeth makes it another whole year. Yeah.
I'm telling you, woo, immortal. I don't know.
Right.
But that is a great show, though. I
Yeah.
love The Crown,
Yeah.
and I am excited. And it looks like we're going to be in the era of Princess Diana.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's another good one. But yeah, as far as currently, that is about it. And I know that was a lot.
It's okay.
Like I said, I do love good television. Um, it actors, you always have my respect, especially good acting. It is admirable, and we thank you for the escapism you provide us.
Well, and the one thing we know for sure is that a lot of what's getting produced, the quality stuff, is coming from women run shows, women
Ooh.
showrunners, women writers, directors. There's been a lot of progress in the last couple of years. I think streaming and the just more capacity in the system has given
Mm,
people more opportunities. And so we're definitely seeing stories that are fresh. It's not just a reboot or a
yes.
rehash of something bad or something that was.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think streaming has definitely upped the ante for primetime networks because, traditionally primetime networks were the kings of this arena, and it was all based on them. And then cable television, you had your HBOs and then Showtime that came in. And of course, now it's all about Netflix and everybody else cranking it out. So it just, we are the beneficiaries of this fierce competition to compete for our attention.
and if I may put in a plug for Advanced TV Herstory, my podcast, I did 4 episodes about TV by and for women, which
Yes.
was backboned by an interview with an American who is currently down in Australia, a scholar who has written a couple of books about cable and about the mega mergers that have happened across all of the different media platforms. Who
Mm,
owns what? We talked about streaming, and we talked about the fact that as fewer companies own all of the book of entertainment of those all these series that we've talked about, we are starting to find now that they are going to only be streamed. They aren't going to be in syndication, not available on USA necessarily or whatever. And the new ones aren't even going to be put into DVD. So you can't go buy The Crown seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, on and on to have forever.
right.
We are going to be at their mercy, and it's going to continue to cost us.
That's
So
an
those
interesting dynamic.
those were episodes from the summer of 2019 and I think 18. Amanda Lott's very smart woman. If you're watching, those were great episodes. Very informative. She knows her stuff.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely interesting to see the evolution of, oh, I was looking at my notes. I forgot one more show, different format, talk show, Tamron Hall. Love you, love you, love you. What I love about her talk show, it, it's really, it's about any and everything. It's not so much leaning on the format of celebrities coming on and plugging whatever projects they're working on and relying on their audience to draw ultimately the show's audience. It's a lot of everyday conversations, everyday people,
Mhm.
sprinkled with celebrities, of course. But again, she's not leaning on that to drive the show. But I fan out for Tamron anyway. Loved her with, NBC,
Mhm.
and didn't like the way that went down. But obviously, every one door closes, millions will eventually open. And so, yes, I do want to plug her show. I love Tamron Hall show.
Mm,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
television, check us out. And like I said, we'll have some links down at the bottom if you, I don't know what rock you're under, if you've never heard of any of these shows. No judgment. You know now. So
Much
we
TV, so little time.
exactly, exactly. So let's segue over to our next topic.
Yes.
Current slash favorite reads. So in 2020, we've had a little more time on our hands. I'm sure all of you can relate. Maybe you've picked up a good habit of reading and listening to new books. And so we wanted to share with you some of our current faves. And yeah, let's start with you, Cynthia.
Well, happy to share. Like, I just put this in the category of favorite of all times because if you're going to know me, you're going to know that I'm going to throw books and books and books, primarily about the entertainment, women in entertainment, at you.
Hmm.
And the first one I would start with, because what I'm becoming a student of very much is understanding really some of the depth and the meaning that is in all of these productions that we have now consumed as classics,
Mm.
that we didn't even necessarily understand were there, or that the meaning was delivered in one way, but now it has become something much more sophisticated. And I
Yeah.
only that might seem like really meta or deep, but it occurred to me out of reading this incredible book called The Accidental Feminist by M.G. Lord, who is a professor at USC, Elizabeth Taylor. Now, on the surface, you think of Elizabeth Taylor, you understand a certain number of things. And what M.G. Lord did in watching and watching and watching was started to see, she saw trends, she saw threads of storyline and character and agency. And when you think of Elizabeth Taylor, and all you can think of are seven husbands, what you forget is the body of work. And within that body of work and the awards that she won and everything, she had these very distinct segments of her life. And so you
Mm.
don't think of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and National Velvet in as the same person, because she changed, her look changed, her sound changed. So MG Lord did a great job. The Accidental Feminist: How Elizabeth Taylor Raised Our Consciousness and We Were Too Distracted by Her Beauty to Notice. This has been out for a couple of years. I really, really recommend it. If what you're, among other things, looking to do is really learn more about the very women who were putting out some of these classics. I just, and it's so well written. I mean, here is this accomplished writer, professor, and she writes it in the most accessible way. So you forget that that's who's actually writing it,
Yeah.
and you're just hearing from somebody who really has loved, enjoyed, um, taking apart these movies and these characters and looking into the very nuance of why the plot went one way instead of another. And you get
Mm.
to understand that it's most likely Elizabeth Taylor, who, like so many women I have covered in the podcast, at one point in time was the loudest, most powerful, or only woman in the room. Maybe not the
Sure.
most loudest, but her voice carried the most, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love Elizabeth Taylor.
We're going to talk more about her for as long as we have this show.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we will definitely have to dedicate an episode to her. Just fabulous. Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it or any other book?
Uh, I That's it for now, because yeah, I don't want to overwhelm people. It's everyone has this really deep story, and I want each one to sort of stand on its own.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna keep it. Oh, it's there's awkwardness right now because we laughed at just again. I have this infinite list, but I am going to plug first. So this year, every year, let me back up. I make a promise to myself that I break, that I want to try to read more books. And I even gave myself, how about just one book a month, Summer? Try that. And I have yet to accomplish that. So 2020 is here, a little more time on my hands, even pre pandemic. A good friend and I, because everything works when you have accountability and a partner, a good friend and I were like, okay, let's start this reading a book train once a month. And our first book happened to be The Alchemist.
Mm.
And I've been meaning to read this book for forever, but just hadn't gotten around to it. But, she was like, how about, yeah, let's do it. So we did. And strangely enough, this was in January, a little bit before Kobe died. There's a reason I'm bringing this up. And then the news came that he passed. And at this time, of course, everybody is sharing all these stories and anecdotes about him and his life. And being from LA, I particularly took that hard, as many people did. But I stumbled upon an article where he mentioned The Alchemist was one of his favorite books. And also, I was like, okay, today, it was a Monday because he died on Sunday, I believe. And then Monday, when I came across that article, I was like, all right, day one, let's go. Page one. Started reading, fell in love. And the next day on Twitter, so Tuesday, I found the author, Paulio Coelho, on Twitter. And he had posted a screenshot of a text message conversation he was having with Kobe. And they were talking about writing a book together. And the caption for the screenshot was, the book basically will never see the light of day because I it just hurts too much. So it seems like they were actually had something they were working on, and just, out of sentimental and everything, he's gonna hold on to that.
Mm.
But I was just like, all these little signs. And if you're familiar with the book, otherwise called The Omens, because that's what it's referred to in here, but all these signs of just giving me security in reading this book. And then it really has been just a little gem of just reminding myself to follow my heart, follow the signs, and allow myself to live and not take every day for granted. So I'm going to plug The Alchemist. Out of all the books, well, there is one more I'm going to mention, but this just meant a whole lot to me. And so if you have not read it, please do. And it's definitely one of those books, probably every year I would kick off a year, just if you need a recharge of getting back to you. The Alchemist is a great one. The second one is an Audible. So I'm going to pull up my phone very quick. Hopefully you can see that.
Mariah
This is the
Carey.
meaning of Mariah Carey. And I will have to say, initially when she came out with the announcement of her book, I wasn't too interested. I love Mimi, but I wasn't like ready to dive into the book. But I saw her interview with Oprah on Apple TV, and when I realized, wow, I don't know your story at all. And while yes, there's that diva element, and she is over the top. In fact, that's what we love about her. It is really the struggles of her becoming who she is today. And that's what I was intrigued with. And being over the top, and you have to have an audible version of it. I mean, she's singing, she's got the voice variations and all of that. So it's a great listen. So yeah, those are the two books that right now I am digging, and just highly encourage if you are again looking for a little bit of escapism, but also something that may resonate with you on a personal level. The Alchemist and the
Try-
meaning of
and folks, if you're watching, try to find these in your local independent bookstore if possible.
yeah.
Don't go to the big certain place online.
If you
Find it
can,
another
yeah.
way.
Yeah, if you can help out the independent bookstores, they are always much needed and appreciated,
Yep.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
And we will include the links to all of these books with the authors and all of it so that you can see it, because yeah, because that's what we
Yeah,
do.
that's what we do. We share good stuff.
So we were like trying to figure out what would help people understand who we are, where we're coming from, because, how are we going to differentiate ourselves from every other set of talking heads, fun people who have decided that they've got a video, a webcam, and they're just going to go for it. So why watch us? Well, because we do have a little bit of an eclectic sense of taste, and we think deep thoughts every once in a while. So I said to Summer, well, hey, let's talk about what our favorite car, like
Mm.
which one did we own? Which did you own that that you just loved? And it took you ended up saying, well, they represent different parts of your life, which is really cool. That's, I mean, America's fascination and love of the car and what it means to your own brand, your identity, if you are in a car community, having moved from the suburbs into the true inner city. I mean, we are in Chicago now, and we don't get in our car more than twice or three times a week. Our
Yeah,
car means nothing to me
yeah,
the way it did when I lived in the suburbs. So
sure.
what's the car? What? What was Summer's best
It,
car?
it was a good, and so I had to dissect and reimagine the question because technically I haven't I don't have my favorite car. I mean, yeah, I got my ideal wish list if money wasn't a thing. Sure. But in terms of reality, it was more of the meanings of the cars that I had. And
Mhm.
so the first one, a lovely 1990 Toyota Tercel. That was my first car. And it was special because I turned 16. And in leading up to that the day, my parents gave me the choice. You could either have a sweet 16 party or you can have a car. And I thought about it and I'm like, do I want a party for one night for freeloading friends who may or may not buy me gifts? Or do I want to retire being on the bus and have my own mode of transportation? No brainer. So we went for the car. And that was like my entry to independence.
Mhm.
That was responsibility. And so for me, the Toyota Tercel, and it was brown and I called it Brownie. But that was, a new chapter in my life. I was no longer well, yes, I was gonna say I was no longer a child. Clearly I was. I'm 16. But again, here I'm doing big things now because I can come and go as I please. Well, within reason. But I didn't have to rely on my parents or friends to take me places. So
Mhm.
that's that car. And then I graduated from high school, went off to college. And a year after going away to college, my parents gifted me another car, my Honda Accord.
Ooh.
Yes. And what I loved about that is just that car was that transition in my life. I am a college student. I'm grown beyond grown. And that I went to school in Louisiana,
Mhm.
and I was living in California. So I was able to. I drove my car back and forth. Used to do that. I can't believe I used to actually do that. And it would take almost 2 days to do that. But because I would stop and all that good stuff. But that just again another elevated level of freedom
Mhm.
and just good times and road trips and being on the campus. And then a few years later, and I still have this car, is another Honda Accord. And it's interesting. My husband bought me a new car a couple of years ago, and just because I needed to retire my previous Honda Accord, so I got another Honda Accord, and it was just kind of like, here's, let's just do that. And so I'm married now. This was something my husband had done for me. And, so it's just kind of interesting. The vehicles in my life
Mhm.
have just, and what they represented and at certain points in my life. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my early ones skewed a bit older than yours. I will say that the first car that I bought with my own money, like that I picked out versus one that my brother got a good deal on, and this is too good to pass up kind of thing, was a 1981 Ford Mustang, which was at a point in Ford's legacy with that vehicle where it was kind of toward the end. It was a hatchback, and it turned out to be very handy. But in Minnesota, a low rider car ends up rusting in the bottom a lot faster. So your mufflers go out and your seats start rusting. And it didn't have air conditioning, but I loved that car. It was a good car. And then I think the car that made the big difference for me was one that we bought in 2005. It was a 2004 or 5 Chrysler Sebring convertible. And so in Minnesota, again, you have weather issues, and the idea of having a convertible seems really kind of stupid, right? Well, for 4 or 5 months, depending upon how cold you can stand it and how much you can turn the heat up, it's liberating. It is
Yeah.
it is putting the top down, and I don't care if I have to go 2 miles, I'm going, and I'm going to go that way. And it was just a lot of fun. I wore, if it was cold, I'd wear a leather jacket and
Look
gloves and
at
crank the
you.
heat and go. And you got sun. Like if it's sunny, I can. And every once
Did
in a
you
while,
take on a new persona when you would drop the top? Were you someone else?
I know I was just me, and but I was smiling and I was happy, and it takes a, it's you do develop a little bit more of an attitude. And it was just good.
Yeah.
And then I had I followed that up with another convertible, and then again we got to Chicago and cars don't mean as much, so we got all sensible and we just have a single sedan now. And that convertible was sort of the antithesis to the 1999 Chrysler Town and Country van that we had. This beautiful black van with a
Ah.
great sound system and leather seats and heated seats at that. And that was what we hauled around two kids and their lives for, the better part of their elementary, junior high, and senior high years. Hauled stuff to college and all of that. So, that's the suburbs, but that was my identity, two convertibles, and they're important. That was an important part of my life. And
Yeah.
so,
And I like how the cars, very similar to me. They just represent your lifestyle at that time,
mhm.
you know? Um, oh, you were in a minivan.
So
Oh.
the other thing that we talked about a little bit of what else is everybody else thinking about and doing is the fact that we've all developed in some way a COVID hobby.
Mm,
Maybe it's a good COVID hobby, like exercising more or taking up yoga or whatever. Cooking, which I think everybody was doing sourdough, although I didn't.
yeah, no.
What's your COVID hobby?
I've
Or
got, yes. And so, I've been acting like I'm in Girl Scouts and accumulating all these badges. Would keep him busy. The first one I will have to say is I've earned the gardening badge. Well, and you're talking to somebody who I will not say I have a green thumb, okay? Petrified, actually, when you talk about gardening and plants and all that. However, masterclass, there is a particular cool guy named Ron Finley. Shout out to you because it was your class that actually gave me the confidence to try it. I have heard about, got tips, seen YouTube video, all kinds of things about things you can do, baby steps to getting into gardening. And he calls himself the gardening gangster or the gangster gardener, I'm sorry. And he's out of South Central LA. But yeah, just the approach to it, his philosophy behind it made it very easy and approachable. And so I'm starting slow. I'm growing some herbs and I have some seeds for tomatoes, and something else. A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I went to Conroy Nursery and bought some stuff. But I'm feeling a little more confident with trying. So gardening is one thing that I have well, successfully meaning I'm taking a gamble on myself to a try. Let's say
Mhm.
that I don't have this abundance of green in the backyard. Sewing, I prior to COVID, eh, and I say this loosely, but I love how you said wow, because I can't make any garments or make you a blanket, but I successfully know how to thread a needle.
Oh.
And my first project was making face coverings.
Oh, that is something. Yeah.
And so I did a few of those, but I got a little discouraged because they didn't turn out perfect. So I stopped. But I am proud of myself because I can now successfully, replace a button if I have to, you know.
Did you not have to take that in school?
No, no.
Wow. Mm.
Yeah. So sorry. I'm setting back all the women.
Ah,
Yeah, certain life skills I'm lacking.
yeah.
And that was another thing during this COVID thing. Just like, if shit just really hit the fan, could you survive? Do you know how to kill something and skin it and, fend for yourself? And no, I don't. But that's why I married who I married. Anyway, so and so I made a mask. So sewing, I don't think I can rightfully claim that badge, but I at least know how to make a face covering. If push come to shove, I have to. And then last but not least is taking the abundance of classes. Whether it's through Skillshare Masterclass, I highly recommend it. I've learned some mixology techniques. I'm quite a bartender now. Yes, and but yeah, those are just a few of the things that I feel confident about sharing with you at this time. There's more, but that's what we have this show for. You'll get to know.
Yes.
How about you?
You are becoming the Renaissance woman, I tell you. Well, there's the old hobby, which I just lived an entire life with never really having the time and the attention span to do jigsaw puzzles. And I'm not one of those person who posts every time I do one to the world on Facebook that I have completed 15 or 18 or however many I've done. I send a photo to my daughter, like at the beginning and then toward the end. Early on, I'll just tell you, early on, it was fine. It was good. It was something to do. I got to stand in the sunny window. And now that we're into this whole sort of lockdown thing, 8.5 months later, I'm I'm kind of pissed. I'm past this. We have things to do. We have a world to repair. We have hearts to heal.
Yeah,
I am sitting around doing jigsaw puzzles because I shouldn't be out on the street more than I should,
right.
than going to the grocery store. I shouldn't be in too many other stores than grocery stores, or eating outside versus
Yeah,
inside. I mean, there are best practices that need to be employed. And
sure.
unfortunately, a best practice is me standing in my living room doing a puzzle. No, that is not the world I want to live in for too much longer.
Oh, don't be hard on yourself.
Well, I mean, so right now, given the fact that we are in the third week of October, heading into the last week of October, I don't have much of an attention span. So I actually just had it all sort of sorted and then I just put it all back because I can't do it. I need an easier one. So that's that. And then I
How
have
many pieces are you working with?
usually thousands,
Thousands. Okay,
thousand,
that's
like
another. I
1,000.
okay. I bought my first jigsaw puzzle in a while during this. I did
Mm-hmm.
not complete it because I chose a obnoxious and ridiculous design
Mm-hmm.
because it was pretty, but it's too many damn details. So I couldn't.
Right.
So I put it away.
Yep.
But I need. What are your techniques on jigsaw puzzles? You
Well, listening to music really helps.
okay?
And I have to have some pretty good light because light is usually important in the whole color sorting because that's part of the trick. And then
Sure.
I just dump the whole thing into a big. It's a big board that's on top of a table, and then I do my sorting and start the frame as best I can. Sometimes you have to get going. You don't have the complete frame because you've missed some pieces.
So you do start on the outside too.
I
Okay.
try. I try. And then I pick whatever the pattern is that's most obnoxious that I can suss out of these 1,000 pieces, some of which are still, turned over or stacked or whatever,
Yeah.
because there really is not a table big enough for 1,000 piece puzzle
Right.
in my, yeah. So puzzles were sort of that. But then with regard to the podcast, and the podcast has been just jazzing, there's more technology either that I'm subscribing to that I really haven't learned to use. So I'm just doing a lot more on the back end with production and I've been playing around on the back end of an educational platform to sort of
Mhm.
produce classes. And that's fascinating because it pushes me into video and sort of just better framing some of my thoughts, big thoughts regarding what our future is even going to look like and what sort of leadership principles will be the ones the true tried and true American style principles that will get us back to a restored society,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we're all going to be at wit's end, and everyone's going to have to work harder. and get less for a period of time before this is all back to what is. And nobody likes the phrase new normal. No, it isn't going to be a new normal, but we can hope it's going to be a more equitable normal.
Sure.
So I think, you're developing skill sets, doing your master classes and stuff, and I'm just trying to be a little ahead of the curve of people who are my age, this baby boom slash Gen X, which is kind of right where I am, and
Yeah.
to continue growing my skills and my understanding of what this whole online world means, because I think it's going to be, it is definitely a part of the future. I'll tell you
Right.
this. Yesterday, I was at the Macy's on State Street in downtown Chicago. This used to be Marshall Fields back in the day. And I'm trying to do a little bit of cooking, and I had never owned a food processor. So this is it. This is the announcement. I bought a food processor. And I
Yeah.
probably could have bought one online. I probably could have gotten it through Target or something else. But instead, I wanted to take the train, the CTA, into the city, go to Macy's and look at all the food processors. And I got down there, and there it is, basement level, where there's not really very good Wi-Fi or any cell reception.
Uh-huh.
And this woman comes up and she says, "Oh, do you have questions?" And I'm like, there's some on display and there's some in boxes, and it was very creepy down there. There's nobody working, like no, and nobody at cash registers. And I said, "Well, this one here, this one that was on display, well, we don't have any of those. You could order it and then it would be delivered in 3 days or something." And I said, "Well, I came here because I want
I need
State
my
Street,
instant gratification.
instant gratification, and I want State Street to be, moving merchandise, right? I don't want
Sure.
State Street to close." Okay, well, if there's anything more I can help you with. Okay, well, this one here, this is this size. Is this a 3 cup or a 4? So I'm asking some questions, and
Yeah.
she's trying to answer them. And then I said, "And these, I can't, they say they're 50% off, but there's no price tags on them." So I started looking around, and there's no price tags on anything. And I'm like, "Macy's, what are you doing?" I mean, I realize it takes a person wearing a mask to be slapping labels on product,
Sure.
and there's nobody down here to be buying this product. So maybe you're just sort of using this as a fancy warehouse. But and this woman who was helping me had to literally go on her phone, and it was her phone because it had the little knobby thing and a pink case and everything. And then she was trying to get the answer of how much something was costing, and she wasn't getting it because there's no Wi-Fi, or there's crappy Wi-Fi in the basement. So
Wow.
as I finally bought the one, we had to take everything over to one of those scanner things, price scanners.
Yep.
So I finally bought a low end one, which probably made her very sad because, well, but she didn't get credit for it or anything. It's not like an
Right.
assignment or, that she gets a commission. And I started thinking, I think, however we come out of this, because retail is just going to be devastated. I
Hmm.
think what you're going to have then is, because all of retail has all sorts of technology in all of the shopping areas that is sucking data from your phone all the time. It's why you end up going to your next place and all of a sudden you've got ads from where you just were and you have no idea
Sure.
how that happened. What should be happening then is either you can pick up a little individual scanner thing. There will never be stickers again, is my theory. And
Mm.
instead, you're going to have a scanner and you're going to be able to scan anything off of the SKU that's already printed onto the tag,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that they aren't putting a separate unique tag on there. Or that they're going to expect you to have the app on your phone. And then that way they can even figure out how long you are close. I mean, it's amazing. But I think that is probably where it's going. What that's going to require, though, is, yeah, better Wi-Fi in the basement at
Well,
States.
yeah. Well, okay. So let me ask you this. Did you get the satisfaction of going to support the Macy's, and because you obviously you could have done this at home
Mhm.
and it probably would have even been more efficient.
Yes. Well, yeah, except that then they have to put it on a truck and somebody has to deliver it, and yeah.
Right. It would just been delayed.
Yeah.
But still, was it worth it?
Well,
Be
I am
honest.
a retail hound. Okay. I like to shop. I observe a lot while I'm shopping. I think it's got a very social element to it. So my getting on the train and going into the city to go into this iconic department store and see that there's nobody in there and see all these clothes that are not, I mean, if people buy them, and why would they be buying them? Because of what we're being told we can and can't do right now. Um, it was important. I think it was really important for me to go because it's further helping me recognize exactly we are just on a precipice of this big change.
Yes.
And retail and the people who, even the fact that these big retailers now are owned by conglomerates, right? These aren't mom pop shops who are able to kind of change on the dime. They all of this stuff was purchased a year ago or in the works to be made in China and then put on tankers, and every single person who has touched this product to get it to here on this hanger.
And I want to stay on this, and this was not necessarily a direction we were attending, but you bring up something that is a lot of us are experiencing and going through. You are talking to a person who I would identify as a shopaholic, used to,
Mm-hmm.
loved retail therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last few years, case in point, it has become more tedious and a chore for me, and I didn't get the same pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was shopping for the outfit that I wore for the wedding yesterday, it was just another reminder of why the hell I don't go to malls and why I don't do this in person. I
Yep.
mean, I have to still because I fluctuate with weight and things, but um, but the idea of it's daunting to me. Right now I have a strategy for when I go shopping. It's not just a casual like I used to. Oh, I'm bored. Let me go to the mall.
Mm-hmm.
It Everything has to be thought out because I just the burden of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And what has happened is just over time, the last few years, I you just saw this slow decay, if
Yep.
you will,
Yep.
of a business model that was crumbling and just never adapted. And it's from everything, not just the e-commerce, but even customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Don't underestimate the power of making someone feel good when they are spending their dollars in your establishment. And and I don't have to deal with that when I'm at home buying things online.
Right.
And so this last go round in Macy's, I just left. I mean, the woman was amazing, but it's the whole no one's at the cash register. It just stuff
And
is
they're
just
all
kind
getting
of
paid $16 an hour with no benefits. So,
exactly.
you're we're expressing our loyalty because we don't want the brand to go away, but really the brand needs to go many
It
decades
needs
back.
to evolve.
Yeah,
It
because
needs to
the
evolve.
the idea that it's been bought out and it is now so debt laden that it can't turn on a dime is what's causing its own demise. Best
Correct.
Buy, I think Best Buy is back on the rebound from where it was a couple of years ago when it was
Literally because of the pandemic.
it
Because
was
I didn't go there either before all this happened.
Best Buy hit the sandbar at, through because of on time online retailing at the
Yes.
same time that it was selling the very products that made it possible for people to be online buyers or online sellers. And
They were on the verge of becoming the blockbuster.
they're
I
I think
mean, if it wasn't for the pandemic, they would have been bye bye. And really, because everybody all of a sudden obviously needs these devices and technologies in their home. So
they're
there was a resurgence for you.
yep,
But I hope you've learned a hell of a lot
yep,
now that you've given this grace. Because I promise you, they would, if all was still the way it was, they would have been another one that just like Circuit City and all these other places that are gone in the retail grave. And it's just so interesting how slow they were to adopt to technology and how the pandemic exposed all of that. And so now you see your Targets and your Walmarts trying to be competitive with the amenities that people like when they're using an Amazon-ish type of, situation. It is still, I can be in the comforts of my home, but you can give me my product in a reasonable time So I'm not suffering that 3, 4, 5 day lead time.
Yep.
But yeah, no, it's interesting that you talked about that food processing, and just, you want them to win, but they definitely need to be forward thinking in terms of how they do better. Yeah.
And you walk through the purse department and it's a fully
Mm.
equipped purse department. And you want to walk through the makeup and the fragrance department just because you
And the
want that
shoes.
smell.
But it just, yeah.
Yeah, right. I needed that little touchstone of normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was
Yeah.
wearing a mask the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, that
Yeah.
is my
Sorry.
long time hobby. That's my longtime hobby, and I just felt like I needed to do a big check-in on it. Um, and I will remember that trip for a long time to come. So, all right.
Nice.
Well, so that's it. Summer and Cynthia. We've basically dished on TV and books and cars and shopping, which is pretty much what I think about and talk about all day long. So, thank you guys for sticking around and listening to us laugh and wax on about what's right and wrong with society right now and how we're getting through the pandemic.
Yes.
We are grateful that you tuned in. We've got all sorts of information in the show notes about all the things that we mentioned. No pictures of us in cars, however. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button, which I think is just right below us here. And we're going to be cranking this stuff out because we've got nothing else to do. We're having a fun time doing it. And we hope you'll join us for the next round. Take
Yeah.
care, everybody. Summer.
Peace.